Physical separation, Houston.
Houston copies.
Undocking confirmed at 1:28 a.m. Central Time. Atlantis weighs anchor from the International Space Station for the last time. Twelve and a half years of shuttle missions to build and service a million-pound complex at an end. Rendezvous officer reports a good opening rate for Atlantis. This is sequential still video.
Atlantis, station is in attitude control.
Atlantis copies, thanks.
Through the centerline camera in the orbiter docking system, you're looking at sequential still video of the docking port, pressurized mating adapter number 2 that Atlantis is backing away from. Atlantis now 30 feet away from the docking interface with the International Space Station, everything looking good. It will take about 30 minutes or so for Atlantis to reach its station keeping point, 600 feet directly in front.
Atlantis departing the International Space Station for the last time. Thank you for your 12 dock missions to the ISS and for capping off 37 space shuttle missions to construct this incredible orbiting research facility. We'll miss you guys. Godspeed, soft landing, and we'll see you back on Earth in the fall.
Hey, thanks, Ron, USOS lead, and to the station commander, Andrei Borisenko. We appreciate your hospitality again. Hey, when a generation accomplishes a great thing, it's got a right to stand back and for just a moment admire and take pride in its work. From our unique vantage point right here perched above the Earth, we can see the International Space Station is a wonderful accomplishment. It was born at the end of the Cold War. It's enabled many nations to speak one in space. As the ISS now enters the era of utilization, we'll never forget the role the Space Shuttle played in its creation. Like a proud parent, we anticipate great things to follow from the men and women who build, operate, and live there. From this unique vantage point, we can see a great thing has been accomplished. Farewell, ISS. Make us proud.
Tinged with the finality of the moment, words from Ron Garan, NASA flight engineer aboard the International Space Station, and Atlantis Commander Chris Ferguson, as Atlantis continues to move away from the complex, currently at a distance of 71 feet, moving ultimately to a point about 600 feet directly in front of the station for a period of 27 minutes of station keeping to enable the station to yaw 90 degrees prior to the start of a half-lap fly-around by pilot Doug Hurley from Atlantis' aft flight deck.
Hey, Houston, Atlantis on the big loop. We're going to keep the radar in comm mode if you can pick anything up.
We copy, Fergie. Thank you. Atlantis, I have ISS attitudes for our pop when you want them.
Yeah, we'll take it, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay, pitch yaw roll is going to be -2, 0, -1.
-2, 0, -1. Thanks. Pitch yaw roll.
Good copy.
The view from the centerline camera in the orbiter docking system, looking down the barrel of pressurized mating adapter number 2, from which Atlantis undocked just about 8 minutes ago. Undocking occurring at 1:28 a.m. Central Time at a point at which the two vehicles were flying almost 250 miles above the Pacific Ocean east of New Zealand. To recap the numbers, Atlantis spent 8 days, 15 hours, 21 minutes of docked time to the International Space Station on this 37th and final shuttle mission to the complex. Over the period of 37 missions, space shuttles spent 276 days, 11 hours and 23 minutes of dock time, almost 40 weeks of joint work to build $1 million city in the sky. $1 million pound city in the sky. Atlantis is moving right down the narrow cone, the corridor, away from the International Space Station, now at a distance of about 140 feet. Opening at a rate of about 0.3 of a foot per second, everything looking very stable, very good. Upward firing jets disabled to prevent any inadvertent pluming of the solar rays on the International Space Station. Now 11.5 minutes since undocking. Pilot Doug Hurley continues to fly Atlantis at a very stable rate. Almost 200 feet in front of the International Space Station with an opening rate of 0.3 of a foot per second, right on the marks. Hurley should reach that 600-foot marker about 20 minutes from now. Commander Chris Ferguson has now taken the shuttle communication systems out of radar mode and put them back into comm mode, as it's called, enabling us to have downlink television from the orbiter, looking back at the International Space Station from a distance of 242 feet. Atlantis and the International Space Station.
250 feet. Station copy.
Chris Ferguson providing distance information, 250 feet now, separating the two vehicles as they approach the west coast of Chile, moving from southwest to northeast. Soon they cross the west coast of South America. They'll be tracking right up the Amazon jungle right at about the time of orbital sunrise, about 17.5 minutes from now. Atlantis' docking mechanism being powered down, no longer needed. The final undocking of a space shuttle from the International Space Station occurring 15 minutes ago at 1:28 a.m. Central Time. Atlantis now just over 400 feet in front of the International Space Station. 37 visits of space shuttles to this complex, beginning with Endeavour in December of 1998 on the STS-88 mission that was commanded by the now director of the Kennedy Space Center, Bob Cabana. That was the joining of the Zarya module that had been launched a month earlier from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan with the Unity connecting node, or Node 1, that still exists as the juncture between the U.S. and Russian segments of the International Space Station. There are 3 spacewalks by Jerry Ross and Jim Newman helped assemble those modules to set the stage for the flights that would follow. The first docking of Atlantis to the International Space Station came in May of 2000, 2 months prior to the launching of the Zvezda service module, the first living quarters for the International Space Station. The STS-101 mission, commanded by Jim Halsell, delivered 1.5 tons of supplies, refurbished electrical, environmental, and communication systems in both Zarya and Unity, and delivered the Expedition 2 crew to the complex, Jim Voss, Susan Helms, and Yuri Usachov. After 7 visits to the Mir space station, including the first ever docking to Mir on the STS-71 mission in June of 1995, Atlantis has now completed 12 visits to the International Space Station. A noteworthy record. Atlantis now just 2 days away from landing at the Kennedy Space Center to complete the Space Shuttle program.
Houston, Atlantis, big loop. You can tell the Tridar folks that their display is really looking pretty good.
Hey, that's good to hear, Fergie. We'll pass it on. I don't think we need to pass it on. I'm sure they're listening.
The rendezvous officer here in Mission Control reports that we're at 525 feet, should reach that 600-foot bingo point for station keeping about a minute and a half to 2 minutes ahead of schedule. The coordination between the shuttle and station flight control rooms then will give the go for Russian thrusters to initiate this 90-degree yaw maneuver for the International Space Station. We also are about 8 minutes away from an orbital sunrise. The International Space Station at the time of Atlantis' undocking weighed 901,745 pounds of mass. Constructed and maintained during 12.5 years of shuttle visits.
Houston and station Atlantis is at 600 feet.
Houston copies.
Copy, 600 feet.
This is Mission Control Houston. Chris Ferguson, Atlantis' commander, confirming that the orbiter and its 4 crew members are now at 600 feet, have begun station keeping. In the International Space Station Flight Control Room, Flight Director Jerry Jason is
Ready for that item 19.
Flight Director Jerry Jason in the Space Station Flight Control Room is coordinating the next step with Shuttle Flight Director Quatziala Barujo. That step to include waiting here now just about 3.5 more minutes until an orbital sunrise for the International Space Station to begin its 90-degree yaw maneuver right at the top of the hour at 2 a.m. Central Time. Pilot Doug Hurley is at the controls of Atlantis from the aft flight deck. Atlantis and the International Space Station separated by 600 feet, just crossing over the northern coast of South America and the equator, just 3 minutes away from flying into daylight. This will initiate the yaw maneuver that will present the longitudinal axis to Atlantis' astronauts in the start of a half-lap fly-around. Atlantis and the International Space Station moving into an orbital sunrise over the Atlantic Ocean. We should be hearing the initiation of the 90-degree yaw maneuver momentarily from the Space Station Flight Control Room and Flight Director Jerry Jason. This yaw maneuver will be conducted by Russian thrusters to place the longitudinal axis right in the field of view of Atlantis for the fly-around of a half-lap by pilot Doug Hurley.
Atlantis Houston, the station maneuver has begun.
Atlantis copies.
Atlantis station keeping now for a period of about 32 minutes while the International Space Station slowly yaws 90 degrees. Once the station has completed this unique maneuver, Atlantis will begin to fly to a position directly above the International Space Station, then behind the station, maintaining a radial distance of 600 feet.
For your SA, estimated time of completion of the maneuver, about 26 minutes. Okay, we copy on the big loop, 26 minutes to maneuver 90 degrees.
The 26 minutes represents the minimal time.
Big, but it moves really slow.
Well, we're trying to give Doug a chance in this fight, so.
Hey, what do you want, speed or accuracy?
Fight's on.
You saw the jets on Atlantis' nose firing to maintain its station-keeping orientation. These two vehicles, so instrumental in human spaceflight over the past 30 years, and for the International Space Station over the course of its lifetime, looking at one another, admiring one another at a distance of 600 feet, while the station yaws to an orientation for one final lap by Atlantis to document the longitudinal axis, the modules, and some of the components of the International Space Station that other shuttle fly-arounds have not had an opportunity to have a view of.
And Houston, Atlantis, not sure if you're getting any video down. We have the C camera sent out there to watch the maneuver.
Hey, Fergie, we've got the second best view on Earth here. We're in the big room. On one screen, we've got the C camera of the station and watch the sunrise on station. And on the other screen, we've got Atlantis from the station. Two beautiful views.
Must look pretty spectacular.
At the sunset of its career, an orbital dawn glinting off the Space Shuttle Atlantis, flying 600 feet in front of the International Space Station near the west coast of Africa, moving from southwest to northeast. As Atlantis sits serenely 600 feet in front of the International Space Station, the propulsion officer here in the shuttle flight control room taking note of the jet firings that are governed by the digital autopilot on the orbiter, maintaining a rock-steady station-keeping position in front of the complex, The International Space Station continuing to slowly yaw to a 90-degree orientation prior to the initiation of this half-lap fly-around by pilot Doug Hurley. This view through sequential still video of the International Space Station, you can see how this yaw maneuver is occurring on Russian thrusters, a slow, deliberate maneuver to place the longitudinal axis of the International Space Station directly in view of the orbiter for the initiation of this fly-around by Doug Hurley, so that unique documentation of certain areas of the station not before seen during one of these activities can be captured in this, the final undocking and fly-around of a space shuttle of the International Space Station. At the back of the cargo bay of Atlantis is the Raffaello multi-purpose logistics module that delivered 4.5 tons of supplies to stockpile the station for the next year. At the very rear of the cargo bay, the failed pump module that was retrieved a week ago by Mike Fossum and Ron Garan during their spacewalk and maneuvered down onto a truss at the very back of the cargo bay for the trip back home and analysis by engineers on the ground. You can see the shuttle's robotic arm and its 51-foot-long orbiter boom sensor system extension in the correct orientation to begin the late inspection of the reinforced carbon-carbon of the shuttle's wings and its nose cap, following its final separation a bit later today. That late inspection will provide mission managers the final piece of data to provide just one single additional data point of reassurance that Atlantis' heat shield is in good shape for Thursday morning's re-entry back to Earth and a pre-dawn landing at the Kennedy Space Center. Atlantis and the International Space Station flying 241 miles over the border between Spain and Portugal. This view now from the television cameras on Atlantis, looking back at the International Space Station as it continues its yaw maneuver.